Did Freddie Gruber ruin Neil Peart's playing? Well, he didn't ruin it because Neil played some great music, didn't he? I, on the previous video to this, tried to, tried to get my my subjective approach as a drum teacher of 36 years to give you my, and you're just getting my opinion here. But when I do these videos, it's nice to take these contentious subjects and sometimes bury within them something that's actually educational in a way, you know. So for what it's worth, I am going to back up now and really go through the history of drum technique in the 20th century, go through the fundamental principles, and hopefully at the end of this video, those of you who follow, even if you're non-drummers, will be able to then assess whether Gruber did not that much good for Neil. So, as I said in the previous video, let's scoot back to the 1920s. Sanford Moeller, he's a drum maker, right? He is not only a drum maker, but he's a drum teacher. And he notices these old guys out in the old people's homes that were, when they were young, were playing in marching bands and playing in the Civil War, in battles. And they would be there playing the drums, and they had to play for a long time. Now, when you play for a long time, there's issues as a drummer, because when you hit the drum, as you throw this down, the stick hits that, and there's energy thrown back into the stick. And that stick, the energy will then follow back into your hand, and it will hurt your hand. If you're playing the drums for a long time, as I said in the last video, eventually, it could be a matter of 2, 3, 4, 5 years, depending on how bad your technique is, your hands start to hurt. For me, it happened when I got to the age of about 45, I think. And luckily, I bumped into a British drum teacher and drummer, an incredible drummer called Mal Garrett, who gave me some lessons and got me out of it. I was able to get back and play. And now, I suffer with a little bit of numbness, but I don't end up with my hands just not working after a gig. He really helped me out. He changed my idea of realising technique for me, personally, was a way of not getting my hands hurt. That was the big shift I got from Mal. Don't want to hurt my hands. I wonder with a Neil Peart, having played a lot of drums for a long time with less than perfect technique, was suffering with the same thing. That is a conjecture I put out on the previous video. The point I made on the previous video is Moeller technique, which I think is probably the best way of thinking of an established approach to playing the drums, has been adapted by so many teachers and taken on other aspects from other traditions, from classical hand technique, from marching drumming. A whole bunch of different things have come in. But Sanford Moeller is a good place to start. When he went out to these old people's places and they watched the drummers playing, obviously they were used to playing a snare drum, not a drum kit. So they were playing a technique which was slung over here with a thing called traditional grip here. So the traditional grip is where you play the kit like this, you're holding it like that, and it enables you to play an angle down here, and then your right hand. And the way they alleviated the injury was by gripping at the back. A back grip there. Now, this is counterintuitive because most teachers will say to grip up front, but Moeller taught a back grip here. That's a pretty useful grip, actually. If I now start hitting the drum like this, I am not going to hurt myself because I can't, because I can feel the sticks vibrating with the energy, but it's not going into my hand. I'm not grabbing it and taking it in. Traditional grip is naturally a back grip. Said all this in the last video. Don't worry, we were going to get onto new ideas soon. So, but how do we play accents? What about accents? Why are accents important? Accents are really, really important. There is a school of drum teaching that will give you a rudiment like a paradiddle, and it will say, play it flat, absolutely flat. You're not playing it flat, Andy. I know, can't. Now, there's some used to doing that, but for me, the paradiddle only comes alive when we put some accents in. Those accents are really important. So accents are key to playing the drums. Let's go down to one limb. Let's forget about all the modern drumming where you're playing linear stuff between your hands and feet and all this stuff, well, forget all that. Just let's have a look at this hand and let's see what's going on, shall we? Right, so first principle, we're going to grip it from the back here. Now, if you do this, as you hit, you will notice that now the stick is bouncing back of its own chord. I am not bringing the stick back. Now, you can watch interviews with great drum teachers and they will be trying to get this principle across. It's really hard to communicate to people. Most people play down through the drum. Neil Peart did, like that. They avoid it, but what's much more important is the stick, for it to come back, they've got to fish it back. Now, if you loosen your grip, right, and let the stick bounce, the stick will naturally bounce back of its own accord. Now, how can we get that to happen? Well, there are 3 grips. As I said, there's the Moeller grip at the back, but the established grip is the one at the front. This is what you will hear teachers say. Hold the stick. Here's the back third. There's the front third. Divide the stick up into thirds. And at the back third, notice here on this Meinl stick, which are great, by the way, it says made in Germany. So I'm going to hold it there, bring the stick around. Now, if I hold it very lightly, you can see that that will bounce up and I can follow it up from that grip. But of course, you can't play the drums like this, can you? So you need to put your hands around it. Right? Now, if you start to feel the stick and you drop a stick, which is like for a beginner drummer, the worst thing you can ever do. I think dropping the stick's bloody brilliant, but they seem to think it's a terrible thing. They will then start to grip tight at the front, and then you're on the way to the drummer's menopause because you're gripping tight. Right? So there's another way of gripping which has less pressure and is just automatically lighter, and it's called second finger pivot. Right, the pivot is where the stick is bouncing. So in normal up front, it's like that. With second finger pivot, it's here. Or we could go back grip. You'll find the easiest one is back grip. Now, as it bounces, I'm going to explain to you something that will help you develop the feel for this as a principle of the stick coming back. Because when I dealt with this, no teacher was adequate to get this across. And then I almost faced it with my students, trying to explain how you hit. And I would be at a lesson with Mal, and he was going, you need to do this free stroke. And he would explain it like this. Mal would say, drop the stick down, let it go almost. The stick bounces, then you follow it up. Let it go, follow it up like that. Right, now if I come round to the side and play here, if you want to slow that down, you will see at the moment of impact, I have let go of the stick and then I'm following it back. Now, in reality, when I was having lessons with Mal, I went to my second lesson after he told me, explain this to me, and I'm there going, and I go, is that it, Mal? And he's going, not really, Andy, because I couldn't do it. This was an intellectual understanding that I had to get to start off with, right? This here, and that's your full stroke there. It really requires the riff, and it's the wrist, and it's the basis of all technique. If you're interested in how to play the bass drum fast, this all applies to the bass drum. This isn't about how you grip. It's the idea that whatever's striking is going to come back. Right? You got 3 grips. So if you want the stick to come back in front grip, there it is. That is what it would look like. There's the bounce. Now, if I then grab that bounce and try and pull it back up, like that, we start to get a full stroke. Now I'm really exaggerating this for you, but once we've got that, then we can go. And you feel the stick, suddenly the stick feels like it's coming back at you rather than up front. This is the basics of all technique on the drums. That's never going to hurt you. It's going to make the drum sound brilliant because resonance is in our hands. You know, this is tight and this is loose. And that sound there is created by me creating a pivot. And that is that sound as opposed to that. That's the principle. With my students, I get them to do it with a back grip. And they start to get a feel. Once they've got that, then they can put their fingers back on. And I tend to teach a mixture of front. I play all 3 grips. That's how I play. I utilise them all for different situations, right? The back grip I usually use, if I'm just doing a rock beat, like this is going and it's loud, that's when I go to a back grip, you know. But the back grip will give you a feel. Now, as you start to develop this, you'll start to realise that you can just open your hand, and when you shut your hand, the stick comes up. So I'm dropping the stick onto the pad, and then grabbing from the back. Become aware of the bounces. Let's have 3 bounces. Pull it back. Pull it back. Let's have 2 bounces. And then just 1 hit. 2, 3, 4. Now notice I've got it in Moeller grip. Now here, once I now develop this here, my wrist is creating full strokes at quite a reasonable speed. There's nothing impinging that there. Can you see that? Once you've got that, then just put your fingers back on as I did, and you should have your basic stroke. Okay? So, accents. We can't play accents with this. Everything's flat. Are accents important? Accents are the most important. All drumming is about accents. Rudiments, the whole lot. It's really about accents. All right? This is a stream of 16th notes without accents. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and a 5 and a 6. Let's stick some accents in. That is what drumming is. When you're soloing, anything you're doing, the thing that's coming out, what you're playing is accents. That's what the drums are. So accents are key. So with Moeller technique, how are you going to get an accent? Well, you could try to hit it with a small thing. But that's not what Moeller said you do. What you do is you create a whip. This whip starts here, right? And it goes elbow up, wrist up, and then you fling the stick back. It is literally a whip, like a lion tamer would be cracking his whip to subdue a lion. All right? So if you imagine that the drums are a lion, and you want to bring out the fierceness of this lion, I mean, this is the sort of bullshit that I imagine Freddie Studio would have done. You know, imagine dark sunglasses, hat, and he sat there with Neil. Neil, you need to imagine, right? Imagine that your drums are a lion. They're like a lion, a fiery lion. And you want to bring that out, but to do that, you've got to bring the whip in. I want you to whip. And you've got to subdue that lion. Bring the fire. That's what I want. Right, so that, I think, was the sort of teaching that Freddie Gruber was doing. It's great, I love it. I'm doing it here. But in practical times, the whip, that's the whip. So what does the whip do? When you crack a whip, rather than you having a straight sort of linear movement that just runs in a line, what happens is this. Look at the bead of the stick. I am putting energy in to hit it. Stick hasn't moved. I am now up here. Stick hasn't moved. I'm about to strike and I've got my whole hand. I was really swinging at this. Stick hasn't moved. So then I put it, it whips back at speed, and the speed accentuates. Bang. It's a wind-up which creates. Now, once you've got accent, it means you can do that. You could do that and get an accent with very little movement. That's really useful, because movement, a distance, stick travel distance is what dictates speed, you know, as opposed to. Right? Accents are related to stick travel. So accents will build speed because accents develop smaller stick travel. So if you're practicing that, so now I've taken this stroke here, but I'm adding a whipping into it. So the whip, look, I'm in back grip here. There's the whip. I'm really exaggerating this for you. You can see, but because I'm putting the whip in, I am then developing these much smaller strokes, which sound great. So now we've got two principles here. We've got a hit that is a free stroke, a linear hit. I call these a wrist stroke in my teaching method, a wrist stroke like that. The wrist doing it, and then we've got a whip, which is a wind up. Now, one of the things you'll notice with the whip is it's different starting position stick-wise to this, the free stroke, the wrist stroke. The wrist stroke starts here and ends here. If you're doing it here, it starts here and it ends here. A whip doesn't. A whip starts here. Now, both of these are what I call static hits, because they start and end in sort of a settled place. Here, I'm settled. Settled. I can hold that for ages. Here, settled. Back up here. Now, when people start working on whips, and when I went for lessons, I didn't actually have a problem with burying the stick on just straight. My wrists were good at that. But what I was doing is what some teachers call a controlled stroke, and I don't think it's a good thing. A control stroke is a whip like this, where the stick stays down there. No, you have to still release the power. So what I teach my students is to back up the whip with a free stroke and let that stick come back. That's really important. Now, if from here I wanted to do a whip stroke, I can't, because they start here. You cannot do a whip from here. All right? And that is why some teachers brought in the control stroke, because now you can do that. So they will be teaching things like this. Great, but I think it's a nonsense. I think you should work at it like this. Only my personal opinion. So you do a whip, stick comes up. Now from here, if you want to do another whip, that stick's going to go down to there. So what I do is I get my students to just do continual whips. And they notice as they go into the whip, if they relax, they get a little hit here. Now this hit is not static because it's part of the push into the next whip. You see that? So now I'm whipping, and with my students I always used to get them to really feel like they're not playing that second stroke, that they're getting that for free. This is called a pull out, and it is the beginning of a wind up into a whip. And you can see I've got all back grip. This is not involved. And I'm doing this deliberate to show you that it's the principle that counts. Right, if I've got a grip and that grip, there's a grip here, if that grip allows the stick to come back, so here, there's my free stroke, here's my whip, and here's my push-pull going between a pull-out and a whip. It's not about how you hold the stick, it's about that stick coming back. That's the first principle. And then when you push into a whip, your whip's correct. That's the principle. It's got to go like that. It's a wind up, like cracking a whip. That's hard to get across to students. And then this pull out is involved there. Now, we can put all three strokes together, right? We can do whip, free stroke, and then we can do a pull out. Now I'm going to show this first with a Moeller grip. Whip, free stroke, pull out. Now I'm really hitting hard and actually stunning the stick onto the side. But my right hand is under no stress whatsoever. Right, so that's the back grip. We're now going to go for front grip, do exactly the same thing. Right, so we've still got that back grip in there. You know, Tony Williams, he said that all the fingers need to be in contact. They do. Never play like this. That is wrong. So put your fingers around it, but have a light grip at the front. There we go. There's the three. Right, you got that? Now that there contains all three strokes that exist on the drum kit, and all technique can be built out of those three strokes. The whip, the wrist stroke or full stroke, some people call it rebound, and then the pull out. Okay, so we've got that. Now, if we back up and we think, when we let the stick come back, it's bouncing back, right? So you will notice that if you're in Moeller, if you hold it tight here, the stick is gripped hard, but when you hit it, to allow that motion back, we're loosening up here, so now the stick's being held here. So actually our fingers are helping to do this. So I'm hitting down, but that second stroke is actually happening as I pull my hand back out. It's like a pull out's happening, but inside my hand. Now, if we go to front grip, this would look like this. Now for me, this is the principle of Moeller technique, but now applying to the fingers. Stick is bouncing back, and then we're gripping it again. So here, we start to get a technique which is known as push-pull. So I'm pushing down and I'm pulling. Right, have you got that? Now that there is basically you're hitting, the stick's coming back, and then my fingers shut and you pull the stick back up to get the second one. So this here, you see that there? That is the equivalent, it's exactly the same as this one. And we can put those two together now. So now I'm doing the Moeller whipping and I'm doing the fingers at the same time. Now, if you put all that together, I think that's covering everything in terms of technically. So remember, if we go back now, we could do whip, then we're going to do the wrist stroke, and then we're going to do the pull out. So when we go back to fingers, first finger pivot, we're going to do whip down, get that there. So whip, in terms of fingers, is actually just pushing your fingers out. Look. That's the equivalent of the whip for fingers. Grab your hand. Those people who are trying to develop push-pull, your hand has to go into that position there, and then you've got to pull it back up, all the way up to start off with. Once the stick starts flying out of your hand like it just did then, so that there's an exaggerated. Now, you will find it easier to do it second finger pivot, right? There, it's bouncing up, and that's how I actually will do this here. Now, the way I see the drums is if I'm playing like rock drum and it's really loud. So before I get to that, let's explain the three now. So first finger pivot. So now we're going to hit, it's going to bounce, and then we're going to utilize the fingers to do the equivalent of a full stroke, which is this. See that? And then we're going to grab. Now when I'm practicing these, I'm doing them slow, and I'm utilizing this idea that the sticks will point up to the roof in between everything. I call it idle hand high, but it actually, there isn't an idle hand here. This is another technique. If you want this explained in more detail, I will go into this. But here, now, think about it. We now have 3 gears. We've got Moeller technique, which looks after the big stuff. And we can get a reasonable speed here, but we could transfer to this big 3 grip, which has got Moeller in it. But as I bring this down in speed, I actually, when I'm playing quieter and faster, like jazz, I then move to a first finger pivot for this. So what that is now is it's a very reduced, and if you know I've gone into French as well because I can access my fingers. I will also practice it in German. There we go. So what's actually happening there, I'm doing a little whip, which is as much me pushing the fingers out as it is wrist. I'm then the middle one, little bit of fingers just to help it along. Help. Can you see it? The little finger there just to help it along. And then grab. Now that to me feels like bang, but it's like open, 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 open. Right? Now this is your hand riding across the top of this movement. So what is actually going on here? Well, let's just take it now down to the pivot. I'm going to go with second finger pivot. So what's actually happens, the stick's bouncing, watch. As it bounces, the timing between the bounce speeds up. It doesn't bounce like this. It goes. Now let's just take the first 3 bounces. Do it from here. There's a rhythm the stick will naturally want to play. I've got into contentious areas where I've said I don't think that swing rhythm in jazz is coming from Africa or anything like that. I think it's just the natural sound of the sticks bouncing. If you've got good hand technique and you're doing all this Moeller technique and it's the American Civil War and you've come out of that and now you're playing in a marching band in New Orleans and you're hitting on the 2 and 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and rather just, you're doing that, but you're lazy. So you just let it naturally bounce. And as soon as you discover that, you go, oh, that's cool, buddy. 1, 2, 3, on down the back. I think that's what happened. I think they hit and it just bounced. I mean, can you discount that as a theory? It's pretty obvious. Now I can play that with my fingers. Now you might be thinking, I'm a rock drummer, Andy. I don't want to play. I don't want to play all this jazz stuff, this jazz swing. So what you want to do, basically, fundamentally, is your Moeller technique is going to work like this. This is your ride cymbal, your hi-hat. So you're going to play push-pull, no fingers, and then you're going to whip down. Boom, pop, boom, pop, boom. You might go. So let's analyse what's going on technically. Because if you sat there in a band, doing that all night in your band for hours on end, you will have developed some level of Moeller technique. You just naturally will. The technique comes from the sound. This is why you can't practice on an electric drum kit, because the sound sounds great. When you play on an acoustic kit, you have to make it sound good. You have to whip, you have to not bury the stick into the drum. All of these things make it sound cool. So you subconsciously will lock on. So this is how us non-taught drummers, these NEIL Pearts and me, the people that don't have the establishment thing, this is how we develop technique, through the rock beat. We can play singles. And that is your rock drummer's technique. That's what they have. Can't play doubles properly, can't do rolls, can't do any of that. But what they can do is that, and they're really good at it. And then they're right to a certain extent to say, look, I do this. This is what I do. It's really cool. All the drummers I like do that. And all this wanky stuff that other people drummers do is just all a load of, they're right to a certain extent. But we know that they are protesting against all this wankery because they can't do it. That's the reason why they're doing it. If they had the choice of someone just saying, I'll give you that technique now, of course they're going to say, oh yeah, I'll have it if you're going to, just drop it into my hands. Now the jazz drummer is doing that. And what the jazz drummer develops is the whip, like the rock drummer, but they develop the full stroke of the stick coming back, and then they develop, right, all three strokes properly. Whip, fingers, grab. When I was a kid, my dad used to put on modern jazz quartet albums, and they swung. And then we would get a stick, and I would have to swing with him all night. Boom, boom, My dad never told me about all these fingers and all that. No, just listening to Connie Kay and trying to get it to sound right, and have the accent at the front, develop the hand technique. So then you come across the rudiments, the most basic rudiments in the world, which is singles. So here's singles. Sorry about cocking that. Start again. I couldn't decide whether to do fingers first or wrists. So there's wrists. There's fingers. Wrist. Fingers. Wrist. Fingers. And I need to do a bit of practice here. This has gone awry because I haven't been practicing. So I'm going to have to move this into French for you, okay? Sorry. And this is about knowing about technique. I can always do fingers. So we're going to do wrist, fingers, wrist, fingers, wrist, fingers, wrist, fingers. We could bring Moeller technique in. When you play fast singles, there's no fingers. You have to use Moeller technique. You can use fingers, but you're going to get this. It would be like this. How can I do it? So there I'm playing accented. Right. Knowing about technique, you could try things out, and I'm doing that for you on camera. I shouldn't be, because it shows that I haven't got this all nailed, and I haven't, because I know the technical stuff, but you're applying it to the situations you've got. And because I haven't been practicing my left hand, the German fingers, because I said this on the last video, but that when your palms are facing, that's a French, that's German. My German fingers are lacking. Let's try and show you how I'd sort that. They are lacking, so let's work that out. So there's my German fingers here. So let the right hand teach the left hand. That's the first exercise I would do. I'd take 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Once I'm into it, utilize idle hand high. So when the stick isn't played, you lift it up. Now, my left hand's rusty. I can fix it. It usually takes 40 times to fix anything, I think, in terms of your practice right now on the spot. This is a very important aspect of practicing. So let's do 40. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. As I approach 20, I try and push it a little bit. 18, 20. Now this is starting to feel better now. Since I've done a lot of practice on this, I can feel my hand going, oh yeah, I remember now, Andy. I remember this. So what I would do then is this exercise. Right, left, double stroke roll. 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 And then I will go to the exercise I was trying to show you, which is wrists, fingers, wrists, fingers, wrists, fingers, wrists, fingers. And my left hand's struggling, so let's just do the left on its own. Wrist, fingers, wrist, fingers, wrist, fingers, wrist, fingers. And I feel today that would be the exercise I need to do to get that sorted out, right? But there's, you can see singles, both wrists and fingers. Now let's take a double stroke roll. That would be the next rudiment on the list. So if we're playing a double with Moeller technique, we're doing whip and pull. That's all wrists. Now let's bring the fingers in. So we're going to be doing open, stick comes back, grab. There's a double. So singles, doubles. Singles, doubles, singles and a minor rusty. Slow it down a bit. Doubles. Just do some too loud. This is stiff. This is. And that's what Tony Williams, if you watch that video online where he's warming up for a clinic, he's basically just doing singles and doubles. It's like not a mystery. Well, I think with the double stroke rolls, it's interesting to put bowler whips in. That's an interesting sound. Try and speed that up for you a little bit. Right, so that's there. Now we start to move to paradiddles. Now paradiddles are made up of rudiments which never get discussed. They are called, I call them compound rudiments, compound singles and doubles. So these are simple singles and doubles. So there's singles and here's the doubles. Compound is a mixture of a single and a double. So I'm going to do a double with a right hand single here. Right, and then we've got the left hand, and I would always start with the right hand lead. I'm not going to get into right hand and left hand lead here, but there we go. And my left hand needs to be warmed up, I do apologise. It states left hand, come on left hand, what's the matter with you? Getting old, you see. Right, so we can then put together those two strokes together, so we can go right, right, left, and then right, left, left. So go. And this comes out as an inverted left-hand led paradiddle diddle. A paradiddle diddle is two singles, two doubles. And these relate to these compounds. So this is a very God. This is where I need to do a proper drum course and sell it to you. I need to get proper cameras in, and I need to get my methodology that I've taught to thousands of students and I know works. I need to get it in because it's all principle led. You're trying to achieve something, right? So these triplets here, if we mix those with singles and doubles, singles, doubles, right hand triplets, left hand trip. And I'm adding in accents. Now, to be able to do that, to mix those up, you need to, in terms of your body, be able to do this. There's the time. Singles, doubles, triplets. Now, the ability to do that, to play those threes against you keeping time. That's what sorts the men out from the boys, or the Annikas out from the girls. Right, so I've spent 3/4 of an hour just talking through hand technique and trying to take these principles, which really come from 3 strokes essentially. A full stroke, which is where you hit and the thing flies back off the drum, and the principle is that this is going to bounce back. A whip, now the principle is that we're going to create an accent through this motion like a whip. And the pull out, which is the principle is that is the wind up to a whip. We can't really play it on its own. It would be like that. Okay? And then when we put those together and get these accented threes, that contains all the technique that exists on the drums. That's my basic teaching method. So, what would I have taught Neil Peart if he'd came to me? Well, I think the thing that he didn't have, that the jazz guys had, was the relationship of Moeller technique to groove, to pocket. So I would have got him in terms of the left hand, thinking in terms of these threes, because these threes here, for me, are the basis of everything. So there they are as triplets. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. There they are as triplets. My hand's really loose. I'm hardly playing them. Little bit of a kick. You know, that's taken a long time to develop that is there. Fast, it's a different thing. But for me, the real technique is here, bang, in that middle speed, where this has to be really loose, okay? But there's another way to play this. We can play this as 16th notes. So on the front of stick control, we get things like Go on. We get these type of things. This is also an exercise that I will do a lot. Continual threes. God, I really need to do these, and I do apologise. But you're seeing me. I'm at an age now where, you know, my practice time is virtually zero, and I'm coming back to this after really not playing for about a month, except for gigs. Now we have the swing. So I think what I would have got Neil doing was whipping down and get that with his left hand. Something like that. Because that wind up and then the ability to let the sticks just drop into position, right, is a really useful thing. So applied, say, to a groove, we could go one, sorry. I would get him feeling that. Maybe that as well. So I would have got him forgetting so much, because the trouble with the rudiments is they're linear. That's a linear playing is a big thing at the moment, that whole gospel chops thing, and everybody seems to be chopping these linear strokes. So they're quite basic when you look at these patterns, and they're just played very fast by young kids who have naturally fast hands. But there's another way of playing where it's non-linear and you're following the drums. So what I think I'm going to do, I haven't got any mics on the kit, but what I'm thinking of doing is I am just now going to finish this video off with 15 minutes or so on the kit, just trying to show how some of these things sit. So let's explore Moeller technique in terms of grooves rather than snare drum rudiments. So first thing you'd want to do is develop with your right hand, rather than chopping away at the hi-hats, that you're doing a simple accent here. Now we're going to whip down here. So this action here on our backbeat, we've got to work on two whips together. Put that together. Now, this hand, if it's working, we have got a grace note that we can add. So if we think of this beat of having 8 parts, 1 E and a 2 E and a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to drop a grace note onto the E of the first beat. So we're going to go. Now I'm going to add it onto the and of 1. Now I'm going to add it to the E of 1, which will mean I've got to do this. I've got to do a tap and a whip. It's like an inverted pull out and it's hard. Now let's add it to the 2E. So we're going to go 1. Now add it to the and. add it to the da. We can now repeat that, bringing in 2. So we're going to do 1 E with grace notes. So. Now, as you start to do this, you'll start to see and I'm having a little bit of trouble when I'm consciously thinking about it, is the Moeller technique is now working on different levels. See? So my left hand and see what's going on in terms of these techniques. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. It has been an exploration of, I think, the idea of groove and feel and how that relates to technique, and the sort of anomalies that have been shown up by this whole narrative surrounding NEIL PEART, FREDDIE GRUBER and Anika. And I think I've tried to get into that as the best I can over these 2 videos. I hope you enjoyed this. I apologise for being a little bit, I need to loosen this left hand up a bit. I've realised that, and I think perhaps that's all Neil really needed from a teacher. Not lots of talks about being at one with the sea, you know, and dancing around the room and all that type of stuff, although I do think Neil enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, see you soon.
Alright, O'Connor, let's see what you got.
It wasn't bad, was it?